Stop acting like we're married. You don't get to run my life, Mia snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice through the silence of the room. Her keys dangled in her hand, the car headlights outside flashing twice as her friends waited. Ethan stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his jaw tight, blocking her path like a guard instead of a boyfriend. He thought he was protecting her. She knew he was controlling her. And in that moment, with her heart pounding against her ribs, Mia realized this wasn't just another argument, it was the line in the sand. Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line. Protecting you isn't the same as controlling you. Mia laughed bitterly, shaking her head. Is that what you tell yourself? Because it sure doesn't feel like protection from where I'm standing. It feels like a leash. He flinched just slightly, but he didn't move from the doorway. His green eyes that once made her melt, were hard now, cold. Those people aren't good for you. They drink too much, they drag you into things, and I'm the one who has to deal with the fallout. You don't have to deal with anything, she shot back. That's the point. I'm an adult. I can make my own choices. If I fall, I'll pick myself back up. His nostrils flared. And what am I supposed to do? Just stand here and watch while you screw up your life? Yes, the word ripped out of her before she could stop it. Because it's my life, Ethan, not yours. You don't own me. You don't get to decide what I wear, who I see, or where I go. That's not love. That's prison. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed to fade. Ethan's fists clenched at his sides, his chest rising and falling as if he were holding himself back from saying or doing something worse. For a split second, she almost expected him to apologize, to step aside, to admit he'd gone too far. But instead, his voice came low, simmering with anger. If you respected me, you wouldn't put me in this position. You wouldn't even want to go. Mia's grip on her keys tightened until they cut into her palm. Respect doesn't mean obedience. If you can't tell the difference, then maybe we're already done. The words shocked even her, but once they were out, she knew they were true. Outside, her friends honked again, impatient. The sound snapped her back to reality. She pushed past him, ignoring the way his hand twitched like he wanted to grab her, hold her there, force her to stay. Mia, he said sharply, his voice cracking with desperation. If you walk out that door. She didn't let him finish. The door slammed behind her, the sound echoing through the apartment like a gunshot. For a long moment, Ethan stood frozen in the empty room, staring at the door she had just walked through. His chest heaved, anger and fear twisting inside him. But underneath it all, buried deep, was the chilling realization that she might never come back. And for Mia, as she slid into the back seat of her friend's car, the night air filling her lungs, there was a flicker of something she hadn't felt in months. Freedom. It hadn't always been like this. In fact, if anyone had told Mia a year ago that Ethan would turn into the kind of man who checked her phone, questioned her clothes, and argued about her friends, she would have laughed. Because when she first met him, he had been everything she thought she wanted. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon at the coffee shop near campus. Mia had been drowning in deadlines, her laptop battery blinking red as she scrambled to finish a project. The outlet beside her table was already in use, a charger dangling loose, and without thinking, she plugged it into her computer. Excuse me? A deep voice said, cutting through the hiss of the espresso machine. Pretty sure that's mine. Mia's head snapped up, mortified. Standing above her was a guy with messy dark hair, sharp green eyes, and an expression that was more amused than annoyed. She yanked the cord out, cheeks burning. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But he held up a hand, smiling. Relax. You looked like you were about to cry over that screen. You can use it. That was Ethan. Confident, easygoing, charming in a way that disarmed her instantly. He sat down at the table across from her, pretending to read a book but sneaking glances her way. Within minutes they were talking about her design classes, his job at a local startup, music, movies, family stories. By the time the baristas were stacking chairs and turning off lights, they were still there, laughing like they'd known each other for years. From then on, Ethan was everywhere, showing up with her favorite coffee before class, leaving sticky notes on her desk. Good luck today, you've got this. Texting her good morning before she even woke up, her friends teased her mercilessly. Mia, you're glowing. Layla had said one night, smirking as Mia blushed over another one of Ethan's texts. And it was true. She felt seen, wanted, special. The first time Ethan held her hand, it felt like gravity had shifted. The first time he kissed her, she swore her heart had stopped. Those early months were a blur of long walks, late-night drives, and whispered confessions. He made her feel like she was the only person in the world who mattered. But even then, looking back, Mia realized there had been shadows. Like the night she mentioned her classmate Alex texting her about a project, and Ethan frowned. "Why is he texting you so late?" he asked casually, though his eyes stayed sharp. Mia laughed it off, assuring him it was nothing. Or the party, where a guy slung an arm around her shoulders for a group photo. Ethan's hand tightened around hers, his smile strained for the rest of the night. Later in the car he asked, "Does he always touch you like that?" At the time, she'd thought it was sweet that he cared so much. That jealousy was just proof of love. She hadn't realized it was the beginning of something darker. Because for all the sweetness, all the flowers and kisses and promises, there was always that edge in Ethan's eyes. That hunger to know everything she was doing. That need to be the center of her world. And slowly, it had worked. By the time Mia noticed the cracks, she was already in too deep. At first, it was small things, so small that Mia brushed them off. Like when Ethan would frown if she didn't text him back immediately, or when he'd comment on the dresses she wore to parties. "That's a little short, don't you think?" He'd say it with a smile, but the words always landed like a stone in her stomach. She told herself it was just love, that he cared too much, that he only wanted to keep her safe. Wasn't that what people in love did? Worry about each other? But the little things kept stacking up. One night, Mia went out with Layla and a few friends to celebrate a birthday. She didn't even make it to the dance floor before her phone buzzed. "Where are you? Who's there with you? Send me a picture." She stared at the screen, frustration prickling beneath her skin. She typed back quickly, "It's just Layla's birthday. Stop worrying. I'll text you later." But he didn't stop. He never did. By the time she got home, Ethan was waiting outside her apartment, leaning against his car with his arms crossed. "You didn't answer me," he said the second she walked up. "I told you I'd text you later." "Later? Do you know what could have happened to you? Guys at bars don't care if you have a boyfriend. They'd hit on you anyway." Mia sighed, unlocking the door. "Ethan, nothing happened. I danced. I laughed. I came home. End of story." But he followed her inside, his voice sharp. "You don't get it. You think I'm overreacting, but I'm trying to protect you." At the time, she'd thought it was sweet that he cared so much. That jealousy was just proof of love. She hadn't realized it was the beginning of something darker. Because for all the sweetness, all the flowers and kisses and promises, there was always that edge in Ethan's eyes. That hunger to know everything she was doing. That need to be the center of her world. And slowly, it had worked. By the time Mia noticed the cracks, she was already in too deep. At first, it was small things, so small that Mia brushed them off. Like when Ethan would frown if she didn't text him back immediately, or when he'd comment on the dresses she wore to parties. "That's a little short, don't you think?" He'd say it with a smile, but the words always landed like a stone in her stomach. She told herself it was just love, that he cared too much, that he only wanted to keep her safe. Wasn't that what people in love did? Worry about each other? But the little things kept stacking up. One night, Mia went out with Layla and a few friends to celebrate a birthday. She didn't even make it to the dance floor before her phone buzzed. "Where are you? Who's there with you? Send me a picture." She stared at the screen, frustration prickling beneath her skin. She typed back quickly, "It's just Layla's birthday. Stop worrying. I'll text you later." But he didn't stop. He never did. By the time she got home, Ethan was waiting outside her apartment, leaning against his car with his arms crossed. "You didn't answer me," he said the second she walked up. "I told you I'd text you later." "Later? Do you know what could have happened to you? Guys at bars don't care if you have a boyfriend. They'd hit on you anyway." Mia sighed, unlocking the door. "Ethan, nothing happened. I danced. I laughed. I came home. End of story." But he followed her inside, his voice sharp. "You don't get it. You think I'm overreacting, but I'm trying to protect you." She spun around, anger flaring. "Protect me from what, Ethan? From having a life? From being with my friends? He froze, and for a split second she thought he might actually hear her. But then his jaw tightened. If you respected me, you wouldn't put me in that position. That word again. Respect. He threw it around like a weapon, and each time Mia felt herself shrinking just a little more, second-guessing herself. It wasn't just nights out, it was everything. When she wore lipstick, he asked who she was trying to impress. When she stayed late in the studio, he accused her of ignoring him. When her phone buzzed with a message, even from her mom, he wanted to know who it was. At first, Mia fought back. She rolled her eyes, snapped at him, told him to stop being ridiculous. But the fights left her exhausted, drained, hollow. And slowly, she began to give in. She stayed home more. She avoided certain outfits. She stopped posting photos with friends because she didn't want to deal with the questions. It was easier that way. Safer. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered that it wasn't supposed to be this way. One night, lying in bed with Ethan's arm heavy across her waist, Mia stared at the ceiling and thought, when did love start feeling like a cage? The night it all came to a head didn't start out any different. Mia had been getting ready to go out with Layla and a couple of friends, a rare night she'd carved out after weeks of giving in to Ethan's moods. She had curled her hair, slipped into a black dress that made her feel like herself again, and for the first time in months, she felt excited. But excitement quickly curdled into dread the second Ethan walked into her apartment. He leaned against the doorframe, eyes narrowing as they slid down her figure. Where are you going dressed like that? Mia glanced at him in the mirror, tightening her earring. Out with Layla, I told you earlier. He scoffed. You told me you might go out. I didn't realize it was definite. It is, she said, voice firm. She's been asking for weeks, and I want to see her. His arms folded across his chest, muscles tightening beneath his shirt. You don't need to go to bars to see your friend. You could invite her here. Safer that way. Mia's jaw clenched. She put down the earring, turning to face him. Safer? You mean easier for you to control. His face hardened, the charming boy she'd once fallen for nowhere in sight. Don't twist this. I'm trying to look out for you. Her heart pounded, adrenaline kicking in. She'd had this argument too many times, swallowed too many words, chosen silence over conflict. Not tonight. Stop acting like we're married. You don't get to run my life, she snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. The words hung in the air, heavy, final. Ethan blinked, as if she'd slapped him. Married? That's what you think this is? Me trying to keep you safe is me playing house? This isn't safety, Ethan. This is prison. Every time I step outside, you act like I'm betraying you. Every text, every laugh, every smile, you twist it into something it's not. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. I can't breathe anymore. For a moment he just stared at her, his jaw tight, his fists clenched at his sides. If you respected me. There it is again. Mia cut him off, her voice rising. Respect, respect, respect. You use that word like a chain. But respect isn't obedience, and love isn't control. And if you can't understand that, then maybe we're done. The silence that followed was deafening. Outside, her phone buzzed. Layla was waiting. The car headlights flashed twice through the window. Mia's hand trembled as she grabbed her keys, moving toward the door. Ethan stepped in front of her, desperation flashing across his face. If you walk out that door. She shoved past him before he could finish, slamming the door behind her so hard the frame rattled. The night air hit her like a shock, cold and clean, filling her lungs. As she slid into the backseat of Layla's car, her chest heaved, her pulse racing. For the first time in months, she felt something other than fear or guilt. Freedom. But in the pit of her stomach, another feeling lingered, dread. Because she knew Ethan wasn't the kind of man who let go easily. The first few hours felt electric. In Layla's car, music thumped from the speakers, laughter bubbled from the front seat, and the city lights streaked by in a blur of gold and neon. Mia leaned her head against the window, letting the night air wash over her, and for the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was being watched. You okay? Layla asked softly, glancing back at her. Mia forced a smile. Yeah, I'm good. Better than good. But inside, her chest still ached from the weight of the words she'd hurled at Ethan. They hadn't been planned, hadn't been rehearsed. They'd ripped out of her like a dam breaking. And now there was no taking them back. For a while, she let herself believe it was over. That slamming the door had been enough. That Ethan would sulk, maybe send a few angry texts, then eventually fade into memory like every other boyfriend she'd had before him. But Ethan wasn't like anyone else. And forgetting wasn't in his nature. The first text came just after midnight, when Mia was still out with her friends. "Where are you?" She ignored it, shoving her phone deep into her bag. Then another. "You didn't even say goodbye. After everything I've done for you." Her throat tightened. She didn't respond. By the time she got home, her notifications were stacked like bricks. "Answer me. Don't do this, Mia. We need to talk. If you think you can just walk away." She dropped her phone on the counter, her pulse hammering. The apartment felt different without him there. Too quiet, too fragile. Shadows stretched long across the walls. When she finally crawled into bed, sleep wouldn't come. Her mind replayed the look on Ethan's face when she'd pushed past him, the way his voice had cracked. There had been anger, yes, but also something darker, something desperate. She hugged her pillow tight, whispering to herself, "He'll move on, he has to." But deep down, she knew better. Ethan wasn't the type to let go. He was the type to hold on until his knuckles bled. And Mia had just given him the one thing he hated most: control. The next week blurred into a haze of tension Mia couldn't escape. At first, she tried ignoring him. She muted Ethan's number, shoved her phone in drawers, drowned herself in schoolwork and long walks with Layla. But silence never worked with him. If she didn't answer, he simply escalated. The texts piled up: pleas, apologies, anger, then back to sweetness. "I can't sleep without you. You're making a mistake. Remember the coffee shop? The night we met? We were perfect. You owe me at least a conversation. Answer me, Mia. Don't make me come find you." That one made her blood run cold. And then he did come. The first time, she found him sitting on the steps of her apartment, a coffee in his hand like nothing had changed. "I just wanted to see you," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Mia's stomach twisted. "Ethan, you can't just show up here." He smiled, tired, broken. "I can't stop thinking about you. Just 5 minutes, that's all I need. 5 minutes to fix this." She stood firm, though her hands shook. "There's nothing to fix. Please leave." His smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. "So that's it? After everything?" She closed the door before he could finish, her pulse thundering. Through the peephole, she watched him sit there for nearly an hour before finally leaving. But he came again, and again. Sometimes with flowers, sometimes with nothing but dark circles under his eyes and desperation in his voice. Each time, Mia grew firmer. Each time, it cost her more strength. Layla begged her to report him. "This is stalking, Mia. It's not just love anymore, it's obsession." But part of Mia still clung to the boy from the coffee shop, the one who'd lent her his charger and made her laugh until her stomach hurt. It was hard to reconcile that boy with the man pacing outside her apartment at 2 a.m. Still, the truth was undeniable. Ethan wasn't letting go. And Mia was running out of patience. Mia had spent weeks feeling like prey. Every shadow a threat, every buzz of her phone a jolt of fear. But fear was exhausting, and exhaustion eventually turned into resolve. The night Ethan showed up outside her work was the tipping point. She just finished a late shift, clutching her bag as she stepped into the cool night air. And there he was, leaning against his car across the street, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes locked on her like he'd been waiting. "Mia," he called softly, almost pleading. Her heart stuttered, but this time she didn't freeze. She walked straight past him, her heels clicking like gunfire against the pavement. "Don't do this," he said, trailing after her. "Just talk to me. 2 minutes. That's all I need." "No, Ethan." Her voice was steady now, strong in a way it hadn't been before. "You don't get to demand pieces of me anymore." He grabbed her wrist, not hard, but enough to stop her. His eyes searched hers, wild and desperate. "You don't mean that." She yanked free, her voice cutting like glass. "Yes, I do." By the time she reached her car, her hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger, from clarity. She was done letting him corner her. That night, sitting on Layla's couch with a blanket around her shoulders, Mia made a decision. "I'm reporting him," she said, her voice hoarse but determined. Layla squeezed her hand, eyes fierce with pride. "Good, it's about time." The next morning, Mia walked into the police station, palms sweating, heart pounding. She told them everything. The texts, the late-night visits, the unwanted appearances. Saying it out loud made her realize how much she'd been downplaying it, how much danger she'd been ignoring. The officer nodded sympathetically, jotting notes. "We'll file a report. If he contacts you again, document everything. If he shows up, call us immediately." Walking out, Mia felt lighter. Not safe, not yet, but stronger. That evening when Ethan texted again, "I love you, please, just one more chance," Mia didn't cry or tremble. She screenshotted it, saved it to her folder, and deleted the message without answering. She was building her armor, brick by brick. And for the first time, she started to believe that maybe she could win. It happened on a Thursday night, just as the city was settling into its usual rhythm. Mia had left the gym, headphones in, sweat cooling on her skin as she walked to her car. She almost didn't notice the figure waiting in the shadows until it was too late. Ethan stepped forward, his face pale and drawn, eyes burning with something between love and rage. "Mia," he said, his voice low but trembling, "you're killing me." Her stomach dropped. She scanned the parking lot, empty. No Layla, no witnesses, just her, Ethan, and the hum of streetlights overhead. She swallowed hard, forcing steel into her voice. "You're not supposed to be here." He took a step closer. "You blocked me, you ignored me, I had no choice." "Yes, you did." She backed toward her car, keys clutched tight between her fingers like a weapon. "You always had a choice. And this? This isn't love, Ethan, it's control, it's obsession." His face twisted, torn between pain and anger. "I gave you everything, I made you my world, and you just threw me away." Her chest heaved, but she stood tall. "Because you smothered me, because you turned love into a leash. That's not something I can live with." For a heartbeat, silence stretched. Then he lunged forward, gripping her shoulders, shaking her like he could rattle the truth out of her. "You don't mean that," he shouted, voice cracking. "Tell me you don't mean that." Fear surged through her, but beneath it, something stronger, fury. Mia shoved him back with every ounce of strength in her body. "I do mean it," she screamed. "I'm done, Ethan, done with your control, your games, your threats. You don't own me." He stumbled, shock flickering across his face as if her words had struck harder than her shove. In that split second, headlights swung into the lot, Layla's car pulling in. She'd insisted on meeting Mia after the gym, just in case. Ethan froze, caught in the beam of light. His chest rose and fell like a man drowning. For a moment, he looked like he might collapse. Then, without another word, he turned and bolted into the night, swallowed by shadows. Mia stood shaking, tears streaking her face, but her voice was steady when she whispered to herself, "It's over. It has to be over." The days after the parking lot confrontation felt strangely quiet. Ethan didn't text. He didn't call. He didn't show up at her door. At first, Mia didn't believe it. She kept her phone on silent, half expecting his name to flash across the screen at any moment. She double-checked her locks, peeked through the blinds, listened for footsteps outside her apartment. But nothing came. It was as if he had finally vanished into the dark he'd always carried with him. For the first time in months, Mia could breathe without fear pressing against her ribs. She slept through the night. She went to class without scanning the halls. She laughed with Layla without looking over her shoulder. And slowly, the world started to feel hers again. She poured her energy into the things Ethan had once made her feel guilty for loving. Late-night coffee runs with friends, sketching in the park, dancing around her apartment in socks and a messy bun. Every act of joy felt like rebellion, like reclaiming a piece of herself he had tried to take. One afternoon, while she sat on her balcony with her sketchbook open, Layla nudged her. "You know what's different about you?" Mia raised a brow. "That I've survived hell?" Layla grinned. "That you're shining again." Mia laughed softly, but when she looked down at her drawings, bright colors, bold lines, she realized it was true. For so long, her art had been muted, shadowed, heavy. But now, color had crept back in, the way spring always follows winter. Months later, Mia found herself back at the coffee shop where she'd first met Ethan. The smell of roasted beans, the chatter of strangers, the clink of cups, it was all the same. But she wasn't. She sat by the window with her sketchbook, sunlight pouring across the pages. For a fleeting moment, she remembered that night with him, the laughter, the spark. But instead of longing or bitterness, she felt nothing, and nothing felt like freedom. Mia closed her sketchbook, sipping her latte with a small, proud smile. Ethan had been a storm. loud, consuming, destructive. But storms always pass. She was still here, and she was stronger than ever. The world outside bustled with life, and for the first time in a long time, Mia felt ready to step back into it, on her own terms, with no one holding the leash. She had chosen herself, and that was the kind of love that would never break. Thanks for listening. Hit the like button if you really like this story, and don't forget to subscribe.